How's everybody doing today? Today we're going to do a little video on queries. So what I'm going to do first is open a data file. You have this database class 102. It's available to you in the download. So if I double click on it, I'm going to tell it I want to open it. So it comes up, and what I have is I have 3 tables that are already created. This is a database that's been created for you. We're going to mainly be working with the payroll table, and also for homework you are going to have to do a number of queries based on the people table. I'm going to double click on the payroll table just to bring it up so you can see it. Now this particular table has 566 rows, so I see one of 566. So I could scroll all the way down and see all the different rows. As far as fields, it has last name, first name, level, hours, union. Now union is a yes/no field, which is why you see the check boxes here. Union dues, which is numeric, rate is numeric, pay is numeric, and yep, that's the last field it has. So it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fields and 566 records. So that's quite a lot of data. What you can do with a query is you can actually limit the data that you want to see. You can select just different fields that you'd like to see. You might not want to see all of them. And you can add criteria to these fields so it limits the number of rows or records that you see. To create a query, what you need to do is, you don't even have to have the table up, by the way, the table. I just brought it up so you could see it. You go to Create, and then you go to Query Design. This little window is going to pop up, and it pretty much is asking you which query you would like the, which table you would like the query to be based on. So these first few I'm going to do are on the payroll table. So I click on payroll and I click add, and then I can close this window. I don't really need it anymore. I'm just going to widen this out a little so I can see all the fields. To get a field as part of your query, it's real simple. There's actually several ways you can do it. Let's say I wanted to see first name, last name, level, and pay. If I just double click on first name, it brings it down. Another way you can get a field down is you can actually drag it down. So if I wanted last name, I could drag it down. I like double clicking, so I'm just going to double click from now on. So I've got first name, last name, level, and pay. So instead of seeing all 8 fields, I chose to see 4 of them. Whenever you have a query and you're ready to take a look at it, you can go up here and click on the Run icon. So I'm going to run this one, and it runs this query and it displays all the information that's part of this query. So you notice there are still 566 rows of information. I didn't limit any of the rows, but I did limit the fields that I saw. If you want to go back, at this point you could do a couple things. You could just close this query off and you would be done with it. You could save it. Now, most of the queries I'm going to be showing you in this video I'm not going to save as we go, but for homework you are required to save them so you can turn them in. So this one I do want to save it just so you can see how it's done. I'm just going to click on my little save icon up here, and I'm just going to call this one Q1, and I hit OK. Now one thing I wanted to show you over here is, as soon as you start saving queries or reports or doing anything else, you should notice them start to appear on your left column over here. One thing that happens, sometimes you'll be looking at just a certain item like tables. If I'm just looking at tables, it's not going to show me queries or reports or forms. Usually over here, I like to keep it at all access objects. So whenever I do create something new and I save it, I will see it over here. You definitely want to check over here on the default for your computer. It could be a little different. So it might be just showing you tables. So if you save queries or reports, you'll be a little confused. But always check and see what it's showing you. And then, like I say, I usually like to see all. All right, so I do have this query saved. The other thing you can do with a query, let's say I want to make a similar query to this one and I don't want to start from scratch. You can always go back to View and then select Design View. What it'll do is it'll take you back to where you were when you started this query. So now I'm back here to Design View. I wanted to show you a couple other things I could do. My last query, I just picked 4 fields, but it still showed me all 566 records. Now in this one, I want to put a criteria. So I put equal 1. Under level, I have level that it can be 1, a 2, or a 3, and I said I want this to equal 1. So I'm going to run this query again, and I notice I only get level 1 people. And instead of getting 566 records, I got 197. So it's telling me that's how many level 1 people there are. You can add as many different criteria to as many different rows, or fields as you want. You can go back to Design, and I'm going to add a criteria under Pay. I'm going to say I want to see level 1 people who made over $250. So I use my greater than sign, 250 under my Pay column. I have 1 under my level column. I run this, and now what's going to happen, not only do they have to be level 1, but they have to have made over $250. And you go back and change this again. I'll say kick this up to 350 and see how many people I have. You know, I'm getting down here. I only have 77 people in this query. Remember, out of 566 that meet the criteria that I set. Another thing that you can do with queries, and to show you this one, it's a little bit different than the one I have up, so I'm not going to modify the one I have up right now. I'm just going to close it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one. I'm not going to save it. I'm going to go to Create, Query Design. I also want to work with payroll again, so I add payroll. I just wanted to show you another thing that you can do. Sometimes you want to see all fields, and you can double click on all of them, all 8 of these in this case, and bring them down, but sometimes that's a little time consuming. So if you just want to see all fields and you want to do it quickly, you can double click on the asterisk right here. The asterisk tells it that you want to see all fields, so all 8 of these fields. If I run this right now, it basically shows me all 8 fields for all 566 records. So it shows me, in essence, the entire table. I'm going to go back here and go to Design View. So I'm back here. But it is a nice way to just quickly get all fields shown. I'm going to bring down some other fields. I'm going to bring down level, I'm going to bring down hours, and I'm going to bring down pay. And I'm bringing these down just so I can add a criteria. I want level equal 3. Hours, I'm going to say I want to see people who worked overtime. So people who worked over 40 hours. And I'm going to run this, and I want to show you something. It has to do with this show box. And you notice all these are checked right now. So I run this query, and I do get, okay, it's level 3, and it looks like everybody worked over 40 hours. But if I scroll over, at the end of this, I see field 0, field 1, field 2. So it kind of looks like it's added some extra baggage, so to speak, which I really don't like. Let me try to explain what's going on. I'm going to go back to Design. So if I go back to Design, I notice all these checkboxes are checked here. This is Show. Do you want to show this field as part of the query? If you utilize the asterisk to display all fields, and then you bring down these fields again, it actually will show them twice. That's why I got that kind of extra baggage off to the left side over there on my query, field 0, field 1, field 2. what I typically do if I'm just bringing down additional fields to use with a criteria, I usually take the checkbox off of them. The nice thing about that is, if I run this now, I get the same information and I see it worked. I've got level 3. Everybody worked over 40 hours. So if I go over here, I don't see that field 0, field 1, field 2 anymore. I got rid of that extra baggage. So again, something nice to remember. If you bring down the extra fields and you have utilized the asterisk to show all fields, just don't check these and you'll be all fine. I'm going to add another criteria. I'm going to put greater than 400 here. So now I actually have 3 different criteria in this particular query. I run it and I see I've got 90 records that fell into that criteria. I'm going to go back to design. I'm going to change this again. I'm going to say I want to see people over 600. So I run it. And again, now I should be getting a little bit lower. Yeah, now I've only got 55 people that fell into this where all these criteria were true. A couple other things I wanted to show you. If I go back to this design, you also have a sort row where you can sort the information by a particular field. If I wanted these sorted, for example, by pay, I could go over here. I'm in my sort row. I go to my pay column. I click on this and I say ascending. I'm going to run it. And if I look at pay now, I see pay is in ascending order. It starts at 602, which is in this case my lowest, and it goes all the way up to 720. You can pretty much sort on any field that you choose to sort on, and you can do it in ascending or descending order. I'm going to close this query now, and I'm not going to save it because I want to try another one. So I'm going to go create query design. Again, it's based on payroll. I want to play a little bit with the union field because the union field is a yes/no field. So it's slightly different than some of the fields we've been dealing with. I'm going to create a query. I want to see first name, last name, level. I want to see if they're a union member. I want to see rate, and I want to see pay. So I want to see all these fields. If I want to see all the union members, I just put a yes as the criteria under the union field. Some people get mixed up and they think the checkbox, checking or unchecking the checkbox, has the ability to say, oh, I want all union members or all non-union members, but that really doesn't have anything to do with that at all. Remember, the checkbox in this case is in the show row. So that just dictates whether the field will be displayed in the query. If I run this now, what I get is, out of my 566 records, it looks like 315 of them were union, and I see all these are checked, so I know they are union members. If I go back to this design and I say no as my criteria, then what I get is I kind of get the other group of people, all the non-union members here, and looks like I have 251 of them. So your yes/no fields are very simple to deal with. You just specify a yes for your criteria if you want to see when that's true, and you specify a no when that's false. I'm going to go back to design view for this query and just add a couple other things. I want to see this when level equals 2 and when my pay is greater than 500, and let's see who we get. In this case, it looks like we got 23 records. I can go back here. In this case, I'll sort it by last name. I'll run it again. So I see now it is all sorted by last name. It's all level 2. It's all non-union. The pay is all greater than 500 as I specified. So you start to see just how specific you can get with this data. You can sort it in any way you choose. You can add multiple different criteria. You can specify which fields you'd like to see just by double clicking on them and bringing them down. And then again, you can add as many criteria as you want to limit the number of rows. So by using just those two things, you can really take from a large table of information and pull out exactly what you want. I'm going to close this one off. I want to show you one other type of query. That's called a math query. So I'm going to go to Create, and I'm going to go to Query Design. I'll bring in my payroll table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to this icon. This icon is called Totals. And I'm going to click on it one time. Now, you might not have noticed anything happen at all down here, but what happened is I got this new row. I did not have this total row before, but I have it now. A math query is great when you just want one piece of information. Let's say, for example, I want to know what the average pay is. Well, I bring down pay. I have this total row now, so I can go here. By default, it says group by, which is one of the choices, but it's not what we want. If you click on the down arrow, you get all these different math functions. You can get the minimum, the maximum, the average, the sum, the variance, the standard deviation. You can do all kinds of things here. I just want to know what the average is. So out of my total data table, 566 records, what's my average pay? When I run this, what happens is instead of getting a long list of information like we were with our display queries, it just gives me one piece of information. It says, well, it's $422.69. That's your average pay. So that's for what the math queries are all about. I'm going to go back to View, back to Design, and I'm going to try something else. I'm going to say, well, what's the sum of my pay? Like if I had to sum up all the pay, if I had to cut one check to cover my entire payroll, what would it be? So that's sum of the pay. I run it, and $239,246. That's what I need. Go back to Design. I just want to show you one more thing. You can actually, once you get a particular math function in mind, like I want the average of pay, you can then limit it to a particular group. Let's say, for example, I want to know what the average pay for level 1 workers is. So I have my average pay, I bring down level, I specify a criteria of 1, and now I'm going to find out what the average is. So I run it. I got $336.27, which is less than the average of everybody, which is to be expected because my level 1 people make a lower rate. I'm going to try this with level 2 and see what I get. I'm assuming it's going to be above 336. So I'll try it with level 2. I run it. I get 426. So yeah, that makes sense. Go back here. But with the math queries, you just get to pick out a numeric field, and then you can do all kinds of math functions on it, and you can even break it down into groups. I'm going to close this one, and I just wanted to bring up the people table. I'm not going to do too many queries on the people table, but I wanted to show it to you. A lot of your homework queries that you need to do for this assignment are based on your people table. I'm going to bring it up in design mode first. To do that, I can right click on it and I can say Design View. Design View just tells you all your field names, and it also tells you your field types. So I've got first name, last name, both of which are text. I have age. I've got married, which is a yes/no field. I've got male, which is a yes/no field. And then I've got pay and bonus. I'll just do a couple queries with this one, well, based on people, and then we'll pretty much end the video and you can work on the homework. So I'm going to say create. I'm going to say query design. I'm going to base it on people. I want to see first name, last name, age, married, and pay. So, as far as who I want to see this for all married people. So I put yes. This database has, I believe, 86 records, so it says 44 of them were married. Now, if I want to see all single people, and you go back here, you might say, well, you know, there's not a field for single, so how do I see the single people? Well, you just put under married, you put no. And now I see, here's all the single people. Just like in our payroll one, we can do queries which have several criteria. I'm actually going to bring down the male field here. Let's say, for example, I want to see all single males who made over $350. So, married, no. That means they're single. Pay, I do need to put a greater than sign here, greater than 350. And male, yes. So I run it, and I see, okay, there they are. I want to show you one last thing. Let's say I do this. I say, same query, but I want to see single males who made over 400. I run it, I get this. Now you might think, geez, I made a mistake. Well, you didn't make a mistake. It's just telling you that nobody fit all the criteria. There were no single males who made over $400. So it just shows you this blank row. That's what it's trying to tell you. Anyhow, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it will get you going and get you able to do the homework. In the homework you've got several queries. You do want to save each one of them separately, and you should see them appearing on the side. And when you turn in the database, the Class 102 database, all those queries will be saved with it. They are part of it. So anyhow, hopefully this was helpful. We'll see you next time.